Today's episode is brought to you by Security Financial Management.
Ooh, welcome back to Best Advice Podcast, guys. I'm your host, Rob Lovaglio, here as always with Dan LaForest and Trevor Bell. Gentlemen, what's crack-a-lackin'?
What is crack-a-lackin'?
Love that.
We got a good show today, guys. But before we get started, let's get some positive energy in here. We like to call this, give me something good.
Give me something good.
Hey, give me something good.
We do have a special episode for you guys today, so I'm going to keep it short. This is just a quote I need to hear more, I think. And I think it kind of explains life a little bit. This is the quote. It goes, "You can only understand life backwards, but we're forced to live it forwards." I'm going to say it again. You can only understand life backwards, but we are forced to live it forward.
Hey, I came here to be drugged, electrocuted, and probed, not insulted.
So we're not going to understand everything that's going on right now in our lives, but eventually we will. I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's cool, too. I mean, literally, I've always look back long enough to know where you came from, but keep your eyes forward, right? So, you want to look in the rear view to kind of check it. Mm-hmm. But keep your eyes forward because that's where you're going, and you've got to see everything coming.
Yeah, and it's not all going to make sense right now.
It just doesn't make sense.
As I said, we have a special episode today, and that's because we have the start of the Medicare annual enrollment period, right? So we have had a plethora of questions coming in on this topic because it is live right now. Today's the 16th. Open enrollment started yesterday. So we're going to get 3 quick questions for you. Let's get straight to it. First question's from Clark. Clark, what you got for us?
You want to say something?
Hey guys, Clark wants to know, how do I determine what Medicare plan works for me and when do I enroll?
Thank you, Clark. Dan, why don't you take this first one for us, please?
All right, so turning 65, there are actually multiple election periods for enrolling into Medicare. This one specifically is your initial enrollment period. And to simplify probably a little bit further is the fact that you have 2 ways you can go. If you stay with original Medicare, you have parts A and B, and A is hospital insurance, B is doctors and outpatient procedures. That is what you're going to get no matter what you do, okay? But with original Medicare, it's access. I can go to any doctor, any hospital except Medicare, but I have to add a supplement to pick up the deductibles and that 20% of unlimited of Part B. Then you also pick up a standalone Part D plan, which also has a premium, whether you take any medications or not. The other option is Part C, which has A, B, and D benefits all in it. And we call that pay later because you may have a no premium or small premium, but you have cost sharing, and then you have an out-of-pocket max. But you're restricted to networks. And that's really where, we advise clients is to be very careful with what company and what plan you choose because they're not all the same. They are built differently. They have different benefits. They have different access. And what we try to do is guide them to help them better understand how to use that plan. How would they use that plan? It's no different than car insurance. I can get insurance through State Farm or Allstate or any other big carrier, or I can get it through the General. Okay, it might be $100 a month.
I love it.
At the end of the day, all I want to know is if I get into an accident, am I going to be restricted on where I get my car fixed? Am I limited to 2 collision centers, or do I have access to 25 of them? Mm-hmm. So, again, it gets very complicated from a standpoint of just getting pure knowledge. And that's what we try to do is really break it down so that they have all the information so they can make their decision. How do you want your Medicare?
The only election period I really know about is the one we're currently in, right? October 15th to December 7th. There's more than that?
Yeah, and actually that's actually a good question because that's what we're in right now, and that's your annual election period. That's for people who are on Medicare, and they have the ability to change their plan for the next year. So your initial enrollment period is 3 months prior to 3 months after the month you turn 65, and that's for people that don't have any other credible insurance, meaning that I'm not going to continue to work beyond 65, that I am 65, I'm retired, I need to go on full Medicare. But you also have what are called special election periods, and that can be used for a multitude of different situations. One is I am beyond that 65. I've been working. Let's say I'm 67 years old, and I am going to now retire. I'm coming off that employer insurance. You get a special election period in which you have the ability to enroll into Medicare Part B, enroll into a Medicare plan outside of those election periods. And then and it can also be used for I'm moving outside of my service area. So if I'm in Florida and I'm moving out of state, I can use an election period during this special election period to enroll into a plan. But yes, the annual election period is October 15th through December 7th, where you can make a change in your Medicare plan.
And actually, just to touch on the special election period, Dan, I'm sure you recall the hurricane special election periods that we've been going through these past couple of months. We've got the hurricane coming up to us right now, and we very well could see some from that. Not to project anything, but it's a possibility, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really not been the last few months. It's been the last few years.
Right,
And
right.
Medicare has made it very simple for people to have the ability to get enrolled into Medicare plans. And but yes, we could very well see that extend into next year beyond the December 7th. That's a great point, Trevor.
All right, let's jump to question number 2. This question is from Grant. Grant, what you got for us?
You want to say something?
All right, Grant says, I'm told that a Medicare supplement is the best option available. Is this true?
Thank you, Grant. Trevor, why don't you take this one for us?
So I think when you look at the supplement, for the longest time, people had always considered it the Cadillac plan, right? And that's because there's so much different elements to it. It's the big package. But one thing to understand is that it's all about accessibility. And what I mean is with Medicare supplement, you've got the ability to use original Medicare, and your accessibility to doctors is very vast, considering any doctor in the United States that accepts original Medicare is going to, extend their network to you. Now, it's also important to understand, and Dan and I actually go through this quite often, and something that he had taught me along the way of this education and important component of Medicare is you've got pay now and you've got pay later. And something important to consider with our Medicare supplement is the fact that you've got a premium, and that's why we call it pay now. Whereas you look at Medicare Advantage and you don't have a premium, but with that being said, you do have copays. So that's why you pay later. Once you use the plan, you go to the doctor, you're paying those copays. It's important to understand. Pay now, pay later. And there's a fence in between the two. You've got to stay on one side or the other. And so, not to get too long-winded on the question, Rob, but it's all about situation at the end of the day.
Getting old really sucks.
Yeah, and I want to extend off of that is, when you're looking at Medicare insurance plans, I think the first thing you have to do is understand Medicare and then really ask yourself how you want to use it, what your health issues are, how many doctors you see, what access do you want. And there's so many different things that we sit down with our clients and help them understand what the realities are and then explain to them what their options are. There is no wrong way. I think that's something that Trevor and I really want to bring that educational element with our clients is you have to understand both to really make the decision on what is best for you.
Absolutely.
Based on your financial situation, based on your health access. There is no wrong way, and we hear it all the time. My sister said this, or, my friend down the street told me this. And at the end of the day, that's their opinion, that's their base of education. We want to give you all the tools to make the best decision for you, and then we are actually here to help you guide you down that road because this is not a decision you make one time.
All right, let's end this with a question from Jess. Jess, what you got for us?
You want to say something?
Okay, guys, Jess says, I received my annual notice of change. Why are the costs of my plan going up so much?
Thank you, Jess. Dan, please take this last one for me.
So we talked about the annual election period. In September, you will get what is called an annual notice of change. It'll tell you everything about your existing plan that's going to change for the next year. What we're seeing in Medicare is COVID has after effects. Mm-hmm. The medical costs associated with COVID weighed very heavily on not only Medicare, but also the insurance companies. Okay, so the other thing that you have to understand is each Medicare plan has what is called a star rating. And in my opinion, they're a little misleading because it goes up to 5 stars. And what that does is they're rating those plans based on a number of factors, but essentially it's efficiency. the efficiency of that plan from 2 years prior. Well, what was 2 years ago? It was COVID. So we're seeing costs go up and that are passed on to us because of what was accumulated during those COVID years. We saw a lot more doctor visits. We saw a lot more hospitalizations than we normally would. We saw healthier people that experienced symptoms that they normally did not really go through. So we saw a lot of costs associated there. What we're seeing this year that we haven't seen probably in the last 5-6 years is we're seeing changes to plans. We're seeing companies that are getting out of the business because they just can't afford to be in it. And then we have these what we call benefit plans where they're selling you on their great benefits, but they may have more restricted networks than other insurance companies or other plans that are accessible to you. So this is going to be a very busy season, and if you're on Medicare and you haven't looked at your plan, we advise you to take a hard look at it or give us a call, make an appointment with us so that we can help you better understand what you have, and then are there better options available that might benefit you? And some of that might be accessibility. You know, we're starting to see networks start to shrink with some of these companies. So we work with highly rated, high-access companies when we present options to our clients.
And to that point, just to kind of trickle on what Dan said about the network shrinkage.
Do women know about shrinkage?
Like when a man goes swimming afterwards?
It shrinks?
It is so vital that you evaluate your network. There could be changes, and the last thing that we want is your doctor or you know, somebody you've been seeing for 30 years for medical care is suddenly not covered with insurance. Those out-of-pocket costs can be pretty detrimental, and we just want you to make sure that those networks are in line. So,
yeah, and the best way to do is call your doctors. You know, find out what plans they are taking for 2025. If there's been any insurance companies that they're wiping off their list.
Sure.
Again, you want to be able to look at this very holistic and make sure that you're picking plans that are going to give you access, but also fit your budget.
Beautiful. All right, like Dan said, if you guys have any questions or need guidance on this, please look in the description and schedule directly from the link with Dan or Trevor. Remember, folks, the secret to wealth is not what you earn, it's what you keep. Happy days, everybody.
This podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only and is not intended as personal financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please do your own research and consult a financial advisor as needed. If you have a question for the guys, email podcast@bestadvicepodcastguys.com.